status report.
Yes, this is our monthly financial status report, which depicts the district's actual expenditures for the month ending September 30th, 2013. We have our CBO, Mark Bonnet, here to answer any of the board's questions and give his report. Mark?
A couple of things. The district has received about 9% of its budgeted revenues to this date. Part of that is because of deferrals, and the state is still paying late. We have expended about 14% of our expenditures, and that is again because we start in August with about 75-80% of our staff, the certificated staff, coming back to work in August. From the city schools meeting, there was a request with regard to finding out and getting a better projection on our parcel tax revenue. So what we've done is we've asked NBS, who's our parcel tax consultant that tracks our income by parcel number, about 6 different major projects, and I'll go through those with you. One of them is the Sherman-Williams Urban Village. It has about 460 units. That still is in the planning stage with the city. The Gateway at Emeryville, at Powell and Christie, that is about 265 units. That is in the planning stage with the city currently. We have the 3,800 San Pablo mixed-use project. It's northeast San Pablo, Adeline, I think, and Mac. That's what's listed here. It's residential, approximately 100 units. That has been through the approval process with the city. The other projects we asked about are the 39th and Adeline project. It's 101 units. It's mixed residential and retail. We asked information on the marketplace redevelopment, which is approximately 193 residential units, and currently they're in the construction phase. Parkside project at Powell, Hollis, and Doyle. Residential project, 168 units. It's a live-work flex project. That is also in the construction phase. The last two is the Ambassador Housing on North 36 between Peralta and Adeline. That's a 69-unit residential project, and they are also in the construction phase. The Bakery Lofts, Phase 4, it's a smaller project, 18 units, and they looks like they're in about the occupancy phase. So those are some of the major projects we've asked to get projections on so we can better project our parcel tax income for the next couple of years.
So, quick question. You say the bakery lofts are pretty much almost ready for occupation. And within that large project, some of that is just in Emeryville. That whole project, because some of that project is in Oakland as well, I believe. So we have, out of the large partial, you have a portion of it that's in Emeryville. So I think that's where the 18 units are coming from.
Right, and I think there's an agreement between the City of Oakland and City of Emeryville, where the City of Emeryville is doing all the applications and approvals.
Okay.
And you're right.
Right.
And to let the board know, we've had some of those that we found on our books that we've been collecting parcel tax, where the project is in the middle of a block, and the dividing line goes right through the middle of the project.
Right.
But actually a smaller section is on the Emery side,
Right.
and we're having to refund some dollars with regard to that.
Really? When did this happen?
Recently, last month is when we reimbursed the occupant.
Can you get at the next meeting or finance, can you give us how much that was?
I can tell you it's approximately $35,000.
Do we,
It was over a course of about 5 years,
okay,
and it's a new owner.
Okay.
So
got you.
they purchased the property, and then they recently
Right, makes sense.
brought this to our attention and requested the refund.
Do we anticipate any other issues like that?
I don't think so, although
Right,
if it's in the middle of a block,
Right.
I can't.
right, okay. With the ambassador too, that should be pretty much, that should be about 90% complete, I believe, close to it.
Yep. They'll be
Right.
done by the end of the year.
Right, so we should be, have we collected on that yet? And if not, we should be collecting on that soon.
No, I don't believe we start collecting on our parcels until
Occupant.
the occupant's
Okay,
certificate of occupancy occurs.
makes sense. Okay. And the Sherman-Williams project, now what is that, what's going on with that project again?
It's in the early pre-application phase with the city.
And will all those be residential?
No, it's
What is it again?
460 residential units and about 85,000 square feet of commercial. That's on North Sherman and Horton.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bonnet.
Isn't there another one on the Archstone, or I'm not sure what they call
Yeah,
it?
that's the park side, the 160.
I could never tell if those are two or one. They seem like two different things.
It's
to go like
one
that.
168-unit development.
Okay.
There are numerous other projects going on. Those were the biggest ones, multiple units, well, except for the small one with 18 units. They were in excess of 100 units, or
So-
large commercial spaces.
Do you have any dollar sense of what this means for our parcel tax revenues, or it's just too early to know?
No, I'm waiting for that information to come back from the consultant. We gave them the list, I gave them the addresses. What they need to do now is match the addresses to a parcel number, and then work with the city to find out when those projects are eligible to start receiving parcel tax. So they will do that, and then as soon as I get that information, I'll report that back to the board.
But the general rule of thumb is figured that for each unit is an average of between 800 and 1,000 square feet at 15 cents a square foot. So that gives a quick rule of thumb calculation. So for example, the park side would generate roughly the equivalent of half a teacher position, which, given the fact that there's likely to be at least some kids who are like living next to the park at Parkside, that we'll be able to pay for the additional teachers to teach them. So the parcel tax is just absolutely critical. And of course, we get, for each new student, we get additional state money as well in terms of ADA. So for the viewing public, it gives, essentially, we're able to continue to have librarians and art classes and school nurses and the school nurse and school psychologist and enrichment classes, the computer class you talked about earlier. All of those classes are not covered under the funding from the state. So this 15 cents per square foot tax that applies to both business and residential equally pays for all of these additional things which really make a difference for our school. So I think it's given me a whole new view of when Emeryville has new development, because each time a new square foot is built, it gives us a way to make sure that our kids get the kind of education that we all want for our next generation. would you like to continue your presentation?
Back to the financial status report, we are in a strong financial position, as we explained at the city schools meeting. We have reviewed these reports with the finance subcommittee of the board. I want to apologize to the board because we just presented you with the cash flow statement. I'm supposed to give that to the board on a quarterly basis, and I apologize that got left out of your packet, but it is in front of you. We do end the year projected to have a strong cash position, as noted on the report. We look to end in excess of $5 million. Again, we are in a strong fiscal position with our general fund and our other funds.
But I think it's worth letting the public know that a lot of our strong position is because we've been fortunate in terms of a one-time windfall from a state. There was a state lawsuit related to redevelopment that was brought by Los Angeles Unified School District, but included funding for all school districts statewide. Those funds were put in escrow during the lawsuit, and when the lawsuit was adjudicated, every school in the state got a one-time windfall, and Emeryville's was particularly good. But this isn't, I think it's important to note that that on an ongoing basis, once this one-time windfall is gone, we have to still live within our means.
That's right.
Would you like to speak to this?
That's correct. So last year, the district received the redevelopment agency one-time funds, a little in excess of $2 million, which really boosted our ending fund balance. And we do have some reserves with regard to meeting certain obligations with some of those dollars, and those are lined out in the ending fund balance. So they are one time. We don't expect that to happen again anytime in the future that I foresee at this moment. I will tell you that from a state perspective, taxes are higher as of August by a small amount. I want to say about 0.7 more than the LAO has estimated, which is a good thing. So we ended 12/13, the state ended 12/13 with more tax dollars than they had projected, and so there looks to be continuing small, slow growth. And I'm not quite sure what the federal sequestration or the federal slowdown or layoffs, what impact that will have on our district at this time. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
So around that windfall point, we also ended up being able to put that money in last fiscal year, which made us a basic aid district for 1 year.
For 1 year only, that's
Yeah,
correct.
1 year only. And then, but now we're finding out that may have negative repercussions with respect to the new LCFF formula going forward, as you explained at City Schools our last City Schools meeting. So I'm following up on that. Have you found out anything further as to whether that is going to be an adjustment on that?
I have not. We're going to a workshop. Maybe I can ask the question again. I think this is going to take some time to ferret out some of these, I'll call them inconsistencies with regard to the changeover from revenue limit to LCFF. There are many other incidences with regard to transportation, necessary small schools, one-time income that makes a district basic aid for 1 year. All those things still have to be worked out. And there's just, I know of discussions going on in Sacramento, but I don't know of any outcomes that have come from that yet.
And for the benefit of our new student member and the public, let me just explain that the formula that funds schools to set the amount of funding that the state gives per student was set in 1982 and hadn't changed until the governor...
72.
72, excuse me, I stand corrected. 1972, and so the governor negotiated with a group of community advocates, including Member Affelt, to come up with a new formula that would base school support based on the needs of different schools. So there's a new formula, but we don't know exactly how that new formula is going to impact our school yet. So we've put aside some reserves to make sure that if the formula goes in a bad direction, we have some reserves and don't have to lay off teachers, at least not immediately. We'll have some time to negotiate with the state and try to find other funding sources. But if it goes in a good direction, then we have reserves to do other things. And for example, we just recently acknowledged the great work of our teachers by giving them a one-time bonus in our recent contract negotiations, that basically sharing that reserve with the teachers, and we're about to go into negotiations with other employees as well. So we're looking at how to use that balance both to reward staff and to protect staff from the difficulties of the change in how schools are funded.
So question on the basic aid point. I'm wondering, it's a question for you to carry forward, but if in fact it turns out that it might have been advantageous to us for 12-13 to take this windfall and put it in 12-13 and be basic aid for that year, but on balance disadvantages us for all time. Can we reverse that? Because we actually received the money in 13-14 in August, if I'm correct. Can we go back and ask Alameda County to recognize that in 13-14?
I would not do that because we would lose those funds. We would lose forever that $2 million. Because they'll use that to fund our share of LCFF, and that's it. For 12-13, or 12-13, there was an excess of our revenue limit, so we get to keep those dollars. If we were to receive those dollars in 13-14, we would lose them. And that's the argument that I was fighting with the county auditor controller and the county office of ed, was to post those dollars in 12-13 so we could keep them.
So it's a mathematical question of, it sounds like, $2 million in the hand is worth more than in the bush.
More than losing 8% from your categorical programs. So,
but if it, looking at the numbers at city schools, it seemed that our total revenue was actually projected to go down in 14-15 or 15-16, 16-17. A few years out, like we weren't, it didn't seem like that we were actually increasing under your conservative, albeit conservative, LCFF projections. So, if you multiply that out by 20 years, maybe it's not better to take the $2 million in the hand. It's a question for you to just noodle on and do the math on. And I think your initial instinct is probably correct. But if we're really locked into a being treated like a basic aid district for all time, even though we're not, and they're not going to undo that in Sacramento, then maybe that's our only option, is to undo it locally.
I will pursue that question with some of our consultants.
Very good. Any further questions from the board? Please.
So, Mr. Bonnet, we don't really know where we stand with LCFF as far as what our funding will look like for the 14-15 year.
Well, we do have that information in the multi-year projection. So we do have an estimate at this time, and we do have the growth built into that. So it's just refining our numbers now,
Right.
and I hope to have that done as we present the first interim report.
Okay. Okay. So you said we also know how much we're getting for concentration and supplemental?
Yes,
As well.
we have estimates of those now,
Okay. Great.
but like I said, I hope to refine those numbers by first interim.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public? If there's no further comment, we'll move to the next item.